Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for being here. I really appreciate it.
You bet, Kasie.
The president has said that he would consider postponing Blanche's nomination until after John Cornyn and Thom Tillis leave the Senate. That, of course, would be in the new Congress. Do you think that would be advisable for the president to do?
Well, I'm for whatever gets Todd Blanche confirmed. If that's what the president thinks is required, then that's great in my mind. Todd Blanche has done an excellent job. Crimes down, homicides down. This anti-fraud task force they've set up, Colin McDonald running that, indicting people who are, taking and ripping off taxpayers. So I think Todd's done an outstanding job. I hope he's confirmed, and I don't understand why Senator Tillis and Senator Cornyn haven't done that yet.
Well, it seems to be pretty clear that they want assurances that the anti-weaponization fund will not move forward, and that they have issues with the agreement that the Justice Department made to make sure that the Trumps are not audited by the IRS. Are you supportive of that settlement?
Well, Todd said it's dead. I think he said that multiple times. So I don't know what is going on in these negotiations. The guy who's going to be, hopefully, the next Attorney General has said this thing is finished.
Yeah, but
so
he won't
I don't
put it in
understand
writing.
why they're holding it up.
Why won't he put it in writing?
Well, if that's the agreement, then I don't know that he hasn't done that. All we know is what
he told Congress that he wouldn't.
And Senator
he told
a
House committee that he wouldn't put it in writing.
Well, but I mean, he's the Attorney General. He's the acting Attorney General. He said it's dead. They're not going to do it. I don't know what else it takes.
Well, you're a lawyer.
I don't know that
would
require
you
other
actually
people
not?
running for office.
I mean, don't you tell any clients you've ever had, get it in writing? Isn't that like, I don't know, legal 101? I'm not a lawyer. Full disclosure.
I'm not a lawyer either. I went to law school, graduated, didn't take the bar exam, so I don't know. But what I do know is Todd Blanche is a man of his word. He said that he is not going to. Well, you can get it in writing. I don't know that matter. And maybe that's part of the agreement. I don't know what's being negotiated now, Kasie. What I do know is Senator Cornyn and Senator Tillis voted to confirm Merrick Garland, and they won't vote to confirm a guy who's doing a great job running the Justice Department? I don't get it. I do not. Garland was the guy who did the memorandum saying, oh, we're going to spy on moms and dads at school board meeting. Garland's Justice Department were the ones who did the memorandum and said if you're a pro-life Catholic, you're an extremist. And they confirmed him, but won't vote for Todd Blanche?
Well, I think the issue is partly that they want to use taxpayer money to pay people who hurt cops on January 6th. No.
The weaponization fund is set up to help people like Mark Howe, where the Garland FBI kicked in his door pre-dawn raid when he told his lawyer said he's happy to turn himself in.
There
and he went to
certainly may be
court,
others,
went to trial,
but it also
and the jury found him not guilty.
People that hurt law
it's for
enforcement
people like that. And the board, remember how this was set up? The board evaluates that. So,
but they wouldn't rule out that it could go to people who beat cops on January 6th. They refused to rule it out. The officials did. The vice president refused to rule it out.
FBI whistleblowers that came forward that they wanted to retaliate, that they retaliated against. Those are the people it was designed to help. And oh, by the way, this same fund paid Peter Strzok $1.2 million, paid Lisa Page $800,000. So you got to be kidding me. Mark House doesn't qualify, but somehow they do?
This anti-weaponization fund has not yet been set up. That's what the press has all got wrong about this. But let's move on here. I want to ask you about what we saw from Anthony Fauci, who may be the subject of a contempt vote in Congress after he pled the Fifth repeatedly in his hearing. Worth noting, you ignored a subpoena in 2022. Do you think that Fauci should be held in contempt for what we saw from him?
Over that period.
Well, we're going back and look at the transcripts, look what he said. What I do know is everything he told us turned out to be false. And now that we have his diary, we learned he was more arrogant than we even thought he was. And he knew at the time things he was telling the American people were not accurate. Never forget, Kasie, this guy, think about this. He told us it didn't come from a lab when it did. He told us it wasn't gain of function done at the lab when it was. He told us it wasn't our tax money used to finance the research done at that lab in China when in fact it was. He said the vaccinated couldn't get it. That was wrong. The vaccinated couldn't transmit it. That was wrong. He told us masks worked. That was wrong. He told us 6 feet social distancing was based on science. That was wrong. And he told us this virus, there was no natural immunity. He was 0 for 8 And he was also the most arrogant individual you've ever seen, and that was confirmed by his diary. And he knew at the time those things he was telling us was not accurate, and somehow that's okay. I mean,
I didn't say that. I was asking
frankly,
if you think he should be held in
I'd have taken the
contempt.
fifth too.
I was asking if you think he should be held in contempt.
We're going back and looking at all the transcripts and seeing what he said. We're going to evaluate all that. I know Senator Paul is looking at that as well. We will see.
All right. I also want to ask you about something a little closer to home. There is a colleague of yours in the Ohio delegation, Max Miller, who is facing allegations of abuse from an ex-wife of the wife and his then toddler daughter. Do you think that Max Miller, who denies this abuse, should he resign from Congress in light of the accusations?
Look, this is a family matter. I know Max is a good man. I was up campaigning for him. I hope he wins re-election. He's done a good job as a member of Congress, and we should all pray for his family. These are difficult times that they're going through. We understand that. These kind of situations always are. But Max is a good member and a colleague, and hopefully he's going to win re-election. But ultimately, in the end, that's up to the voters in his district. But yeah, we were up helping Max just a few weeks ago at a campaign event up in his district in the northern part of our state.
So, I mean, it's just worth noting, I mean, the allegations include that Miller scalded his ex-wife's chest and stomach when he threw hot water at her, that he held a gun to her head, that he pushed her against a wall and hit her in the head, that he fractured their daughter's collarbone and bruised her shoulder, that his 2-year-old daughter reportedly told his ex-wife, quote, "Daddy,
Kasie,
kill you." I want to play for you what you said when you were asked about Graham Plattner, who faced allegations of abuse. Let's watch what you told.
Yeah, I've not heard all this stuff.
Well, it was in the New York Times. It was in the New York Times. That's the list of allegations. It's been out there for a while. I just want to show you what you told Newsmax when you saw that Graham Plattner was facing these accusations. Watch.
That's always been the case with Democrats. It's all about maintaining power. They will take any crazy position as long as it furthers their ability to win elections and get power, and frankly, to go against anyone who goes against President Trump.
Why does that not apply here to Republicans who want to keep power in the seat?
Well, I don't know the context of the question I was asked about Mr. Plattner, but my guess it was about all the ridiculous positions he's taken.
The banner there says Plattner's ex-girlfriend accuses him of abuse.
The Nazi tattoo and everything else. Yeah, well, I don't know. I didn't answer. I don't know that I answered that question. I think I was dealing with just who he was as a candidate and the crazy anti-Semitic, anti-Israel, pro-Nazi positions that he has taken. I think is evidenced by the fact that he had a Nazi tattoo on his chest.
All right, Congressman Jim Jordan, thanks for spending some time with us.
And frankly, it wasn't me that kicked him off the ballot. It was the Democrats.
All right, fair enough, sir. Thank you very much. We'll be right back.